Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and envies, kings, queens, and emperors, it's your boy Jake back. Here we are again after not publishing a lot of videos and being not on top of the channel for a while now. You're now going to be watching this discussion between Piers Morgan and the reprehensible, vile Nick Fuentes. Now you might be wondering, Jake, why are you making me sit through Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes? And to that I say fair, valid, and I'm sorry. But I'm gonna cover this because I've seen just like a little bit. I saw some clip where something about Nick was, I don't even like calling this kid Nick. I might just call him Ghoul or Schmeagol or something. Because when I see Nick Fuentes, I see a golem, like from Lord of the Rings, like a golem who's been like caked on with like makeup or something, or with like vague production appeal, but then like got put in front of a camera and started like hating on black people all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like that is the degeneracy of that human being. Whereas Piers Morgan is kind of like, this goober nerd who, frankly speaking, was doing Hasbara for Israel for like the first year and a half of the genocide, but only when it became popular to start supporting Palestine did he, of course, join the right side. Piers Morgan is kind of like the epitome of like a fence sitter, a centrist, also known as like a coward and a spineless dweeb. He doesn't stand up for what's right, or what anyone should stand up for at, literally in the middle of a genocide, right? And so this British pundit, this journalist, he's like a television host. I mean, most of you guys know who Piers Morgan is. He's like a television host. He's been on like America's Got Talent and British Got Talent, or Britain's Got Talent rather, stuff like that. He's done like, I don't know. He's basically just kind of like this, like somewhat boring journalist. Like, I don't know what else to say. He's not really, he's kind of unremarkable. I mean, maybe a little bit of offense, but no offense. But like, he's just some television guy from Britain. All right. Maybe there's more to it than that, but like, that's really all we need to know. Whereas like Nick Fuentes is a far right, white supremacist, Nazi, fascist, like bigot, a bully, tyrant, bad human being, all around. He's rotten to the core. And so we're gonna watch this because I think it's, from what I've heard, like Hassan Piker, I think, did like a covering of it. I didn't watch it, but I think he did, and maybe some other people as well. But I think this might be a good way to take a look at, in essence, why liberals, maybe Piers Morgan doesn't consider himself a liberal, but I mean, I feel like, especially to any of us communists watching, he's the epitome of liberalism in so many ways, right? This like respectability politics vibe. He clings a lot to institutionalism and stuff like that, whereas Nick Fuentes kind of represents this rising, rabid, virulent, far right, quote unquote populism that's really just, a new form of like the same bourgeois fascist nonsense, but it's repackaged in a new way. Friendly reminder, this is the guy, Nick Fuentes is the guy who like went on a creepy, bizarre, like crash out rant basically, where he was like, gleefully giggling and laughing at how a woman's never going to be president when Kamala lost, right? And I don't support the Democratic Party. I live in an overwhelmingly blue state, so even if I did vote for one of the major parties, it wouldn't have mattered. And I voted for a socialist in the last election, but of course Kamala won my state, but obviously she lost the election pretty significantly. And I think, we don't need to get too far into that rabbit hole, right? But there was a lot of problems with that campaign. And it just goes to show like the far right mind can only process, a very small bits of information by believing that it was, Jesus Christ. If you want to go look it up, like see him have this, like, he will never, ever, ever have a woman president. Like it's genuinely, It's degenerate behavior, textbook. And so it's, of course, totally to be expected from a white supremacist Nazi. And seeing how popular this little ghoul is becoming, it's going to be more and more important to start dealing with this nonsense head on. Sorry for this long intro or whatever, but I'm just kind of give some context as what's going on right now. And you're going to be listening to me, a communist, a Marxist-Leninist, American communist, regardless of whatever your views are, right? Maybe you're like a liberal or centrist or something like that. And I'm gonna be critiquing a lot of those politics, right? But this really is meant for anyone. But it's also just mostly for my good old comrades and stuff. But anybody really. So we're gonna watch this. I'm gonna comment on it. I'm gonna talk about what Piers does bad, what he does wrong, what he does good, if he does anything good at all, and kind of talk about what makes Nick Fuentes so popular, but also so disgusting at the same time, right? So let's not waste any of your time, right? And we'll get right into it, right? And I'll talk over this as we go, and then kind of pause and give commentary over it. I get that for some people that might be annoying, right? So if you want to take this in bits and pieces, that's, do whatever you want, right? Throw this on the background while you're playing a game, or you're taking a shit, or you're on a treadmill or something, or come back to it, watching bits and pieces, and enjoy this however you want. But let's see what we can learn from this and see if there's any important takeaways to be had. So without wasting your time, without any more nonsense, let's get right into it, huh?
You're a New York Times reader, an NPR fan, a Daily Wire subscriber, or an avid consumer of all things Tucker Carlson. For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of Nick Fuentes. And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. For many people, it's a grave indictment of an insidious immorality. For others, he's a product of a culture which has turned on its own and left many young people feeling listless and bitter.
So just a quick comment from the get-go, right? I won't get too carried away with this. But from the beginning, okay? Piers Morgan is platforming a white supremacist Nazi, so he's already taken an L, okay? If you platform Nazis, whether you're Jubilee or the News or Piers Morgan, you're a dweeb. You're giving them access. You're giving them power. It's this idea of well, they become so popular, so we might as well talk to them. It's no, you're gonna make it worse. And that's just classic liberalism, right? I think liberalism's greatest sin is rabid anti-communism, but warming up to far-right politics, inviting your racist, bigoted, MAGA-supporting uncles to dinner, but never talking to your communist family members or friends, right? It's this kind of like a deadlock or like a landlocked position where you cannot actually view the situation correctly. And so, as long as everyone's not a communist, it's fine. It's just then that means where you're going to spend your time listening to nut jobs and conspiracy theorists and Nazis and all these terrible human beings, right? So the fact that he's doing this is sad. And it also, in addition to that, this whole there's all these people talking back and forth. Look how some of them are just all totally mad about it, and some others just find him so popular and inspiring. It's no, man, he's a Nazi. That imagine if this was 1940 or 1939 or something like that, and Piers was all right, today we have Adolf Hitler on. Some people find him a polarizing figure. Some people find him an inspiration. It's no, man, he's just a bad person. He's just a Nazi. And I'm gonna be making comments like this the whole time, man. This is such a classic liberalism, cancerous issue that these people are always doing. This idea that we need to both sides Nazis is crazy, man. There are no both sides. They're the genuine extremists. Everyone's so fascinated and hung up on calling communists the extremists. We just want you to have health care and to have a retirement. Nick Fuentes would eliminate all of black people if he could. If he could make women second class citizens, basically build a gender apartheid, reinforce patriarchy, kind of maybe even a Handmaid's Tale situation, he would. Okay, that's how awful this human being is. And Piers is like, well, let's just give him a chat. Let's just see his, So we're already missing the plot, right? And this is why we're gonna make an example out of this, because Piers Morgan is gonna be too stupid to understand what he's supposed to be doing properly. Then might as well use him for our advantage, and then do the best we can to damage, this very prominent strain of like fascism that is on the rise in America right now. You could argue America's always been fascist. Excuse me. You could argue America's always been fascist, but like the way that things are now, ICE deportations supporting Israel's already been bad enough, starting with the Democratic administration, of course. And if I'm not mistaken, not only did the Democrats found ICE, I'm pretty sure they did that, they most certainly have funded it over and over and over again. And as of this moment, if I'm not mistaken, it might no longer be true, but I'm pretty sure as of this moment, President Obama has still had more total deportations over his presidency than Trump right now. That might change over time, right? Because it was Obama had 8 years, and this is Trump's second term, and we're roughly speaking like a year into it. But nonetheless, that's all right. Just to really reiterate that, President Obama, okay, has way higher deportations, like total, maybe not forever, but as of right now, than Donald Trump, okay? So if I'm gonna have a single liberal commenting about chirp, all right, just like, you guys gotta wake up, okay? The Democratic Party is not like this place of progress. It is like the enabler to American empire. If like the Republican Party is like the abuser, then like the Democratic Party is the enabler, right? The Republican Party is like pushing their knee on George Floyd, killing him, and the Democratic Party is standing right there doing nothing, right? And this is just another example, right, of this. And you can see this consistently in so many different situations. You're going to see a parallel to that type of dynamic. I'm pretty sure I said I wasn't going to go too long on these things. I mean, look, I'm going to comment on this stuff, and like I said, if you want to come back to it later or something like that, that's fine. But it's important we talk about this stuff because this is just insane. So let's continue, shall we?
He's either a litmus test for right-wing hypocrisy on free speech or a walking, talking manifestation of where the lines should be drawn. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect.
So he admits that this guy's had way too much time on air, but he's going to add more time to that. I mean, do you see what I'm talking about here? Like this is crazy.
I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
They have opted to not do so when it comes to Nazis like Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes takes this guy apart brick by brick. It's a full takedown.
My concern is that people who are a bit more moderate are deeply alarmed by Nick Fuentes.
I was very happy to see that Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
That's the war. Can you get the beef prices down? Not crazy things that Nick Fuentes or these other loons say on social media.
Well, it looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
So now we had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and never challenged him.
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, the only good thing that we just saw is that right-wingers have some pretty substantial infighting going on right now. That's like the only W we're seeing. I feel like the only reason Piers is like, what we just saw was like, oh, like look at how popular Nick Fuentes is. Like he's it girl or something like that, right? Like that. It's like, okay, well, so was like Nazis and fashion. Like, what is this? Like, why are we? The only reason we think there's something unique or fascinating about Nick Fuentes' rise right now is because we don't understand history. There is nothing unique or special about this little ghoul, this demon, becoming more prominent over time. There's nothing. And if you're a Marxist watching this, material conditions, historical materialism, dialectics, you understand that this is nothing new, that as conditions worsen in the United States, it's going to radicalize people across both sides of the spectrum. I mean, this is, it's so plain and easy and simple, right? And as you can see, these kind of more traditional institutional conservatives kind of want to use Nick Fuentes as a line to be like, okay, don't be like that. That's too crazy, right? But what they don't mention is that it also benefits them, right? Because then conservatives can constantly point to Nick Fuentes, be like, that's too crazy, but I'm the moderate one and you should listen to me, right? Nick Fuentes pushes the Overton window further to the right. And this gives conservatives the opportunity to kind of like pretend that they're really, really against what he's saying, right? But they're actually against his optics and how on the nose he is. In many ways, Nick Fuentes is kind of like the natural product of like Steven Crowder's reign, right? Because Steven Crowder kind of played with this, being this kind of like charlatan, this clown, this trickster demon, playing with rhetoric and racism and awful humor and all of these things. And then that kind of built some of the ground to give this awful human being, God, Nick Fuentes is such a terrible person, this kind of like level of clout that he has right now. And this fascination with him is disturbing. I once heard a feminist talking point that said, good men benefit from bad men, as well, because it artificially inflates the quality, or like it makes good men, seem better, when in reality, like a good guy should just be like the baseline, right? Like you should just be a good person. That should be the bare minimum. That should be what's the bare expectation, right? And I think a similar situation exists with conservatism here, right? So all these psychopathic right-wingers of varying levels of like radical, insane far-right politics can use him as like, okay, don't be like him, right? Because I'm the legit one. In the same way that like Trotskyites use Stalin or something like. I mean, it's horrible to compare Stalin to Nick Fuentes. But it's a similar thing, right? It's this idea of like, like putting a person and designating them, oh, that's too much, right? And then being like, no, I'm where things are at, right? And that's just not how things work. To anyone who like hears this, like, you should just be open, like be a humanist, be progressive. You should be a Marxist, like care about human beings, but like you don't have to kind of like be rigid in anything that you believe. You're allowed to be open. You don't have to agree or endorse. You can also go on the attack for like far right politics and stuff, as you should. But this idea that like you're not allowed to change or be different, or there's not some variance to it, it's absurd, right? So I just think it's sad and pathetic that we're doing this right now, but nonetheless, right, let's continue.
Sense to spend all this time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own, which is often bigger than most of the people complaining, and he uses it to speak
Yeah, I mean, there you go, right? We just revealed a good place to pause in this wretched man's face, right? Piers Morgan is more concerned that people are chirping about Nick Fuentes than the fact that he's like, Piers Morgan is directly contributing to the rise of Nick Fuentes by having him on his program right now. That's just factually true. It's giving him unprecedented exposure, especially to a British audience, right? But he already has a platform, Jake. So might as well have him on, right? And talk. It's like, no. And this is what I'm talking about, right? Liberals unironically be like, let's hear the Nazi out, man. Come on. What about? Don't you want to hear out everybody's opinions, right? And going back to what I said before, it's like on some level with that, yes. But when you come across people like this, there's like there should only be scolding. You should only be going on the offensive, on the attack, constantly trying to put this person down, to make them look insane and extreme as they are. But Piers is a he's all about the clicks. He's a bit of a bit of a sycophant, if I'm being honest. Like he's gonna go along with whatever's gonna get more views for his program, and so of course he literally just gave a justification, right? It's like, well, so what if he's popular? We might as well talk to him and see what the deal is or whatever. Maybe based on what we're gonna see, because I have not watched this yet. Maybe he'll try to push back on him, but I mean, Piers is an idiot, man. He's not gonna be able to do this. This is a guy who goes on America's Got Talent, right? Like he is, American news anchors are already awful and terrible, right? And they're not exactly competent, but at least they know how to perform dissent or discourse. Like Anderson Cooper can pretend to like push someone on something, but even then, I'm really giving him too much credit. I mean, Anderson Cooper is incredibly sus. There's something off about that guy. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, it's just gross. I'm just grossed out already. I think Piers is. If I have to make a prediction, Piers is gonna fail miserably. He's not capable of this. He's a freaking liberal, man. He's spineless. The guy had to wait almost 2 years of like countless women and children being slaughtered in Gaza, right? To being like, well, maybe Israel's just a little psychotic, right? This isn't an ally. This is not someone who's going to stand up for what's right. This is someone who's going to platform a white supremacist because it's going to get him more views. So I need everyone to remember that.
Challenge to as many followers. It's on that basis that I've invited him to appear live and uncensored on my platform. And Nick Fuentes joins me now. Nick Fuentes, welcome to Uncensored.
Hi, great to be with you.
I don't know you. I don't think we've...
Just pause and look at Nicholas's face, right? When you see that face, are you like, wow, that's a good person? Or are you like, wow, that's bad vibes, the human being? And if your suspicion is the latter, you're right on the money. I mean, it's in his face, man. Like, Piers doesn't have anything of, like, value occurring in his brain, so it's just this empty expression. Look at how truly smug and evil and satisfied Nicholas looks. However, slightly afraid and nervous as well, putting up a facade. It's television, right? I mean, anybody could be afraid on it, but this is not a human being, right? This is a Nazi. They are evil incarnate. These people are a threat to human civilization. They will destroy your lives in future. That is the agenda. That is what these people want to do. The West is obsessed with pretending communists like myself want to do what white supremacists like Nicholas Fuentes wants to do. But I just want you to have health care and to have children stop dying in school shootings. Nick Fuentes thinks black people are inferior. He thinks women are inferior. He thinks trans people are gross. You understand? And Piers Morgan is like, well, let's hear him out, okay? You see, like, you don't, like, if you heard about someone and you're like you have a friend, right? And your friend is asking you if they can bring that friend over, another friend over. And your friend that you know is trying to tell you, hey, you should bring this unknown friend over, and he's trying to kind of convince you. And then your friend is like, well, he may have gotten arrested beating women a bunch of times, and he is racist, and he is like, an alcoholic, an addict, and he like beats children. But no, he's a good guy. He's good. Like that's what's happening right now. I think there's this liberal idealist fascination that anyone can be redeemed when the opposite is true. That there will always be people that are irredeemable. There will always be, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the percentage is, but like look at. I mean, even right now, you can check this out right now. I mean, look up Trump's approval ratings. Right, Trump is destroying the last pieces of America, what last pieces of social safety nets and things like that, institutions that we had, and conservatives still have like a 30% approval rating for him. Okay, there will always be this depraved portion of human beings in any population you take. Right. And as a quick tangent, right, this is why communists such as myself and others are so proactive about stomping out fascists and counter-revolutionaries and insurgents and Proud Boys and all of these groups that like want to kill black people just so white people can be in power again. Like that's what these people are like. They are all charlatans who need to be put in their place, because when you live in the liberal quote-unquote democracy of the West, right, now you have Nick Fuentes on the rise because we have allowed this idea of free speech to be too open, that it allows all the kinds of toxic insanity, right? Like, a tolerant society does not have to tolerate intolerance. And what's more intolerant than right-wing politics, right? And so classic Western civilization being like, well, let's just hear out the both sides of the situation, when we shouldn't at all. I'm just so disgusted and grossed out. Like, this is, how is Piers not embarrassed to be doing this right now? Maybe he's just like so soulless and empty or mindless that he's not paying attention. Took him 2 years to denounce the genocide. There is an actual like Smeagol the Nazi is on the screen right now. Just so everyone's absolutely clear about that. Just so it's totally perfectly crystal clear what's occurring right now. This would be like, we thought Charlie Kirk was insane. He was bad enough, right? This is a new level of insanity. I'm just, God, I'm just gonna get like upset and grossed out if I continue on this current rant. So let's continue.
Ever met? You can correct me if that's wrong. I know about you. I know that increasingly people are talking about you in a more mainstream environment than you may be used to. So for those of you who know nothing about Nick Fuentes, I want this to be an opportunity to get to the real person. I don't know who that person is, but I do want
to... If I went up to you and said, we should kill all black people, and then someone was like, wait, let's hear him out, would you like keep your friend who said wait, let's hear him out? Would you keep that person around, or would you discard them? Would you like never associate with them again? Because that person is Piers Morgan. I mean, again, look at Nick's face. Look at his smugness. Look at this evil, this emptiness, this fucking pathetic, degenerate, awful human being, man. Like, this is, this person is a major pillar, a major reason why America is collapsing right now. I mean, it's an empire, and it was bound to collapse for all different kinds of reasons, and I'll get into all that stuff a different day. But to stay on topic, I guess in other words, like, Nick Fuentes is a recession indicator, right? Like, that's basically what I'm saying, right? And I'm just so disgusted and disappointed. Like, we're already in the beginning, and Piers is like, I don't really know you, so if you want to talk about what you're all about. No, man, like, Piers Morgan should have brought Nick Fuentes on and bullied him for 2 hours straight to the point that he might go home and kill himself. That's the goal any normal human being with a spine should be aspiring to. Okay? You don't, if you don't have this idea that, like, we should be militantly trying to eliminate, censor, educate against white supremacy, far right politics, blah blah blah, you're just a dumbass, or you're an active collaborator and participant in fascism. There's no in between. So Piers will have to figure out that for himself, right? I'm so disappointed in him, man. This is so repulsive in every way.